We'll call the meeting to order with Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk Cody, would you do a roll call of the board, please?
Supervisor Milky,
Here?
Treasurer Rogers. Here. Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Lannon.
Here.
Trustee Lay.
Here.
Trustee Theron.
Here.
Clerk Cody here. Everybody's here.
Fantastic, thank you. We have a pretty straightforward agenda tonight. Happy to entertain motions.
Move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Rogers and support by Cody to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes unanimously. We have no presentations or public hearings tonight, so we will open up public comment at 7:01 p.m. Public comment is restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record.
There's nobody online.
Let the record show nobody present in person and nobody connected remotely. And hearing the door not opening, in other words, no one entering, we'll say public comment is closed at 7:01 p.m. That brings us to item 9 on the agenda, report boards and comments. Trustee Theron. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead on the
Little bit.
agenda. My apologies. Can I hold you off for a minute?
No.
Okay.
You called my name and I got something to say.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Current list of boards and commissions. EDA still seems to be the one that we're struggling with. I did make some phone calls this past week. I was really hoping for some calls back. I didn't get those. Marty Fig also was reaching out to someone and happened to be one of the same people I was reaching out to. Haven't heard from Marty yet, so anyways, we need help on filling that 9th seat. Especially as we get into the winter, we get snowbirds on our board and getting the quorum becomes a little more difficult. Anything else on this? We have a July monthly activity report in your packet. If you have any questions, now's the time. Seeing no one jumping up. Planning Commission, EDA, and ZBA updates by Community and Economic Development Director Nanny.
Thank you very much. So we have several things. Yesterday, our EDA board had the first of 2 required special informational meetings. These are meetings required by the State Act, Public Act 57, that governs our DDA districts. The primary audits for those are our taxing jurisdictions. And we did have a representative here. Brian Smith was here from representative Isabella County. We give notice to each of our taxing jurisdictions of these meetings. Public is, of course, also welcome. And essentially, the purpose of the meeting is to inform, is to let the taxing jurisdictions know, the public know what the EDA board has been up to, what's going on in each of the 2 DDA districts. And so we did have a summary of the 2024 annual report, and then talk somewhat about what we're working on now and what we're looking ahead to for the coming year. There will be a second one of these meetings that will coincide with our regular August meeting date. That one will take place before the regular meeting, but this first one is usually the one that people attend. So that took place yesterday. The week before that, the EDA board had their regular meeting. The primary business was to hear the audit results for last year. The audit report to the EDA board was delayed. There were some challenges, scheduling challenges with the auditor. That was resolved, and so she gave her report. And other than that, it was a regular business for them, financial items and such. The Planning Commission also met last week on the 15th. They had one regular business item, which was an exciting one. They had preliminary site plan approval was granted for a new microbrewery on Isabel Road. This is the property right behind Burger King on the east side of Isabel Road, just south of Pickard Road. And the property has been for many years a flooring business. The owner of that business retired. Took longer than expected for him to retire. He had a backlog of work that apparently was much longer than he thought. But the brewery is now taking over that space, and they did receive the preliminary site plan approval for their project. It's going to be a nice addition along that corridor there. It's a beautiful site that they're putting together. As I said, that was the main item of business on their agenda. The other thing I wanted to mention, I think we talked last time about the sidewalk project in Bluegrass Road in the area around the Indian Hill Shopping Center. We have a pre-construction meeting coming up for that shortly, it's next week. Which is really the next step before construction starts on that. I understand from the contractor that they're looking at around the end of August to start construction. But that will be firmed up, I think, a little more when we meet with them. But that will be a nice chunk of the sidewalk there complete, especially the section by Mission Road to complete that intersection there and complete that access point across the front of Red Lobster. It'll be a great addition to the sidewalk network. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Quiet group tonight.
It is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you.
Appreciate your updates. That brings us to item 9D, board member reports. Trustee Brown?
Mount
Sorry.
Pleasant Commission meeting, Monday the 28th, next Monday.
Trustee Lana?
I had one meeting I attended. It was the Isabella County MTA chapter meeting. It was held Wednesday, July 16th. And the topic was, again, regarding the 9-day early voting that's going to be taking place prior to an election that will be coming up down the road. But it is of real interest and concern to the townships that are involved in that. And basically, discussion regarding location. They talked about a multi-jurisdictional location, so Commission on Aging was a location they threw out. Consideration for inspectors, how that will be handled, each township providing inspectors, part of the conversation. Questions about if there's state required coordinators, which is a possibility, and supplies, getting the cartridges and paper there. But it is a fairly significant cost. And for some of the smaller townships, it will be an impact on their budget. Also, question whether folks can volunteer their time, because there's a whole payroll issue involved with that. And then, other than that, I learned that Union Township hasn't paid dues to the MTA chapter for a while, according to their records. And it's pretty insignificant. It used to be $5 a year. And it's down to $1 because they feel they have an adequate amount of money in the budget. But if that is in fact the case, we might consider paying a couple of years of dues. Hate to write a check for $1. And that was it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Trustee Lay?
I've got nothing.
Treasurer Rogers?
Road Commission meeting was last week. They're got the township approval from Lincoln Township to do gravel refresh from on Walton Road from Isabella to Somerton. So that was the one thing I have. Yep.
Clerk Cody?
Nothing.
Trustee Therian?
Thank you. I'm all set.
Thanks for playing along.
It's all good.
The Board of Review met, if you remember, about a month ago. We appointed two new members, one being an alternate. But we met on Tuesday. I think we had, don't hold me to the count, it was either 42 or 43 corrections to make. We're called qualified errors. So typically that means someone's property taxes maybe got uncapped and they shouldn't have been. So like if it changes hands, if property changes hands within immediate family, it doesn't get uncapped to the SEV value, but stays at the taxable value, right? Stays at lower rate. That's a good example. And I think this is not typical for the board review to have that kind of work this time of year, but I think that's credit to our assessor. So she spent, how long has she been here? 3 years now? 2.5?
I think 3.
3?
I think.
In that neighborhood anyways, and so she spent a lot of that time trying to get everything in order, and so every time we have these off meetings that are not in March, we're making corrections to the rolls, and very often to the benefit of our residents or businesses. So anyways, it was a good meeting, but it ran much longer than I thought because of all the work we had to do, and I think that's all I have. That brings us to consent agenda. Happy to entertain motions with that, and I believe Trustee Brown, you had warrants?
All set with warrants, yep, everything's good.
Move to approve?
Support.
Motion by Rogers, support by Brown to approve consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor of consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes unanimously. We have 3 new business items tonight. All 3 of those are policy governance. First one being Global Executive Constraints 2.0. Mr. Stuhldreher, this is kind of yours, so I'll let you introduce it, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. There's a report on policy 2.0, Global Executive Constraints, on page 26. This is an annual review. The month that is supposed to be reviewed is July. The top wording, well, I guess the only wording of this policy is that the township manager shall not cause or allow any practice, activity, decision, or organizational circumstance which is either unlawful, imprudent, or in violation of commonly accepted public administrative practices and professional ethics. I interpret this policy to indicate that all applicable ordinances, state statutes, federal laws are to be adhered to by staff, and that there will be no deviation from accepted administrative practices, and certainly no deviation from professional ethics. I feel this is a reasonable interpretation based on the wording of the policy itself. Some data in your report. We had the 2024 audit done, external audit, and they provided a favorable opinion. It's the highest opinion that they can provide, and that was reported out to the board earlier this year. The board, the township does have an improved investment policy and credit card usage policy. Both those are adhered to and monitored as they're required to be. Many of our positions have required licensing that's provided by the state for water operations, sewer operations, and effective. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have. I do feel that we're in compliance with that policy.
I would have to agree with you.
No questions?
No questions.
So as the manager indicated, it was due in July. Here it is, July. Certainly there was an interpretation there. Did you feel the interpretation is justified?
Yes.
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 Anybody feel that the interpretation did not address all aspects of the policy?
Couldn't think of any.
It's a short policy. It's clear and short. And then the data that we just went through, also presented in the packet. Does that help show that compliance with the manager's interpretation?
Yes?
Yes, up and beyond.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Up
any
and beyond.
issues with policy itself? Anything we need to do better? Okay.
Good.
No objection. We'll move on to item B on our agenda. This is Policy Governance 2.5, Financial Conditions and Activities. Mr. Stuhldreher, again, this is you. So you have the floor.
Thank you. And this report begins on page 29. I will let the board know that the policy wording in here is from an old policy. Specifically, it's 2.5.7 on page 29. As you read it, it talks about limitations of $10,000 for purchases and contracts. The board updated that policy about a year ago to 20,000, and so other than that, the rest of the policy is current. So with that caveat there, the top line policy is with respect to actual ongoing financial condition and activities, the township management team shall not cause or allow development of fiscal jeopardy or material deviation of actual expenditures from board priorities that you've established in your ends. And then further, without limiting the scope of what I just read, there are about 10 other things that the manager shall not be doing. I'm not going to read all of those. You can do that. I interpret this policy to suggest that all our expenditures will meet the budget, be within the budget, and that if not, we'll amend the budget, which we do, unless there's an emergency purchase as outlined in policy 2.5.6. Also says that the manager shall not make a single purchase or commitment unless it falls under 2.6 of greater than $20,000 as the current policy, or inform the board of purchases of over $10,000. And that all tax payments to other governmental entities are to be paid according to state statute. Every collections every 2 weeks are supposed to be dispersed within a 10-day period following the close of that 2-week collection period. And all tax payments to other state entities, payroll-related, income tax withholdings, Social Security withholdings, all those are to be made timely. That's my interpretation of it. Justification for same is that the budget that's approved by the board is the policy level document. The administration then and the management team is left to operate within the guidelines of this policy and the budget, and that we're to follow all state and federal statute. This allows the board then to function as a policy-making body and leave it to the management to execute that policy. There are several budget to actual reports for all the funds in the following pages. There's about 15 pages of budget to actual reports. Although you may see a particular line item that's over budget, we approve the budget at the departmental level, so we're good there. And this reporting is through June, midway through the fiscal year. We do have a budget amendment that we're planning on bringing to the board at your next meeting, the first meeting in August. It's my position that all our expenditures support the global ends policies. We did not incur any debt in the most recent quarter. All our long-term reserves requirements are being met. General fund, fire fund, west and east EDA have reserve policies, as does the water and sewer. All our payroll taxes are paid on time. As part of the annual audit, there's several reports that are being filed with various agencies. The big one is what we refer to as the F-65. That's reported to the state, required by June 30th. That report was filed timely. We do pursue all receivables pretty aggressively, even more so lately, as it relates to delinquent personal property taxes, and even after the original billing of property taxes, we'll get return mail, no address or that kind of thing. We do that research, primarily the treasurer, and then gets the bills out to the correct address, as long as we're able to find the correct address. So I believe we are in compliance with this policy as well. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I do have one. I need to find it again.
On which one?
It actually was kind of a line item I was just curious about. It had to do with the tribal fund. That we have monies in there. Is that for the joint project with Deerfield? Or I'm trying to remember what that was for. And this is not critical. I just was curious when I was going through it.
Contribution from tribe?
Yes.
Was it for update of the parks that was mentioned in the report?
Six
for-
two
last
six
one.
626.000. Oh, that's an account. That's not.
It was the tribal fund, actually.
I see.
So on page 40 is where that is located. We had not had any budget for that item. We have not amended that budget, but we did receive a spring grant award,
This is the spring one, then.
and that's the year-to-date actual recording of that check that we deposited.
Okay. Yes.
And
Trustee Land is correct, and then it's the parks was the big part of that.
yes, that,
Yeah.
that
So
And I
thanks.
just gleaned that from the monthly report that was issued.
Good, thanks.
and that will be part of the budget amendment to recognize that budget at the August 8th.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Again, thank you to the tribe.
No doubt.
You're all set?
Yes, thank you.
Again, due in July. No issues there, right? The interpretation, is it reasonable?
Yes.
Excellent.
Do you feel that the interpretation did not address something contained in the policy? Any issues with compliance?
No.
All right, so the big one, and this one's a little more lengthy, but anything regarding the policy we should look at as far as wording, what's missing, or something that should no longer be there?
No.
I have one question, and I think I've asked this once every time. So forgive me. Manager Stilldry, for 2.5.8, how do you interpret that? What does that mean from an execution that you shall not do?
That I do not have authority to buy real estate property.
Okay,
Or sell it and dispose of it. That's for the board to do. If we're gonna say, but buy a 20-acre parcel
okay.
and maybe have it in inventory for economic development. The EDA is starting to do some of that activity. but that's under their authorities and their monies.
Right. And that's what led to my question a little bit, and I think probably why I looked at that, and I looked at that as something that Township is always exploring if it's best for the Township. In the case of the EDA, looking at potential economic development opportunities. But at the beginning, it says, this is the Township management team shall not cause. So I guess your words still hold, though, that it's not just you, but the management team also is restricted in that light. That the only ones that can do that are the boards that have authority for expenditures. Did that make sense?
Nobody, no single individual, whether it's a manager or any individual member of this board, is allowed to buy or commit, sign a intent to purchase or any of that kind of thing that would start taking you down to the road of becoming the owner by title of property.
Nor the management team, it'd have to be the whole board, correct?
Yeah, that's why I lifted it up, is because I
Team, yeah.
viewed that as the four of us. And I'm sure at some point we might discuss in a management team meeting that possibility, but that always would go through either the EDA or this board or,
Yes.
yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, anything else? Moving on
And
to,
so just,
sorry.
I'm
yeah.
sorry to
No, it's okay.
even add some more specificity. And this occurred with the jail property, for instance. But even to obtain an easement, we need board approval, because that's putting an encumbrance on somebody's property.
Good example. All right, moving on to new business 11C, policy governance 4.4, township manager performance. I assume all of you've kind of read through this.
Bless you.
Bless you. For some of you that have been on this board prior to the last election, you've kind of been through this a little bit. But this is an opportunity to monitor the township manager. And for the public, I'll just read the top line policy. This is 4.4, monitoring township manager performance. Says systematic and rigorous monitoring of township manager job performance will be solely against the only expected township manager job outputs. Organizational accomplishment of board policies on ends and organizational operation within the boundaries established in board policies on executive limitations. I'm assuming everybody's kind of read through the rest of the policy. Do you believe the board is in compliance or no? So
Yes.
no objections to this.
Yes.
Yes, that's an objection?
Yes, I feel
We're in compliance.
we're in compliance.
Um,
It's in writing right there.
Anything that you feel we should improve upon with regards to this?
It's always a trick question, isn't it now? You
It
always
is. I
feel
mean,
like
we
you
can
could
always
do
improve,
better. I
right.
mean, it does, but
But if you have specific ideas
yes,
or,
I understand. I don't, but I understand.
so any other comments on this? Language is all good?
I like the handy dandy monitoring schedule chart, Schedule A.
Yeah. Well, that's why we always ask, was it on time? Because this is our calendar
That's-
of going
that's
through this.
top-notch,
Yep.
May I?
Yes, please.
So 4.4, to the extent you would decide whether or not you're adhering to it or not, I think you'd really need to go back to the 2024 manager performance exercise. Because what this policy says a couple things, but two important things it says is that when you get around to monitoring the manager's performance, which is coming up, and that's what I'm talking about right now, the focus is on the accomplishment of ends and operating within executive limitations. And in anticipation of the individual performance reviews that each of you do, I've included what we've traditionally used as the evaluation form, and that's broken down into two parts: accomplishment of ends and limitations. So that's why you see those two parts of governance policy mentioned in that evaluation tool. And so when you look at that and you start filling it out, you can also look at 4.4, because that kind of describes the basis of your review. And it talks about some other things, monitoring. Is the board acquiring data in your review monitoring of governance policy? You see that in my reports to you every month. Monitoring frequency, I have the schedule in here just for the fun of it. But you could probably go back and put that against the minutes of the meetings, and it would, we do this stuff when we're supposed to do it. We provide data so that you can judge whether or not we're adhering to the policies. So I just wanted to say that for a second as you begin to start thinking about, as we begin to think about the manager's performance that's going to be going on over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
So that's a good segue. So I was going to speak about this some too, but I like the thought process. We are continually monitoring and evaluating the manager through these second meeting of each month. It's just they're very focused at that point on specific items within the policy governance. But I know many of you have been through this evaluation process before, but we have some new people to the board this year who have not been through it. And so, as the manager indicated, you've seen the evaluation form here at the end. And it is organized, as the manager said, ends and then the limitations throughout section 2 of our policy governance. So sections 1 and 2. And historically, this board years ago, every member did this individually, and then we would also hand them to the manager and say, here's your evaluation. And I believe about 4 years ago, we began collating and coalescing what's the right word? Coalescing the data so that we would have one report to give the manager that was basically a combination of all of our inputs. And so how that would work in reality, and I'm explaining this because I'm open to ideas if we feel like we need to change something. So Global Ends 1.1, residents engage in vibrant community life. If I were to give a 4, and I'll pick on Trustee Brown here for a minute, gives a 3, and so on, we might say our average score for 1.1 is a 3.5, right? And then we have opportunities for comments in this process as well. Typically, we've submitted everybody's full comments as part of the evaluation, so those all get collated together. So what I wanted to ask this board is, as we go through this process, so this would be, say, the second meeting in August, we could go through this. Okay. That would mean you'd have to fill out your forms, right?
And that's the individual.
Individual. So at that point, we would kind of go through those together, and then we'd end up with a full marked up sheet, kind of double review that, make sure it's good, ultimately present that to the manager, have a conversation as one body versus individuals. Does anybody have comments on the process, improvements, dislikes?
I'll make a comment. Since there has been some of us here through it, I think Trustee Lannon probably went through the old process before. When I came on, the old process, and it seems like we've redefined this to make it much smoother. And I'm for the new process that the old board kind of revamped. I believe it makes us more one and united. And that's my only comment for the new trustees.
I think that was the goal of it, just to
Yeah.
reiterate.
I think it
Goal
worked
was
very well.
To give the manager one evaluation
Mhm.
result, right?
Yep.
That comes from all of us.
And I think that worked. I believe it worked well.
I was all in favor of that change because the reality is I work for the board.
Yep.
I don't work for 7 individuals. I work for the Union Township Board of Trustees. And so having an annual review that's under the cover of the board, I think, makes a lot of sense and it matches the reality.
Yep. I appreciate your remarks, Manager.
So is the process not clear to anyone? I'm looking at you less because you've been through it
Mhm.
multiple times. But for our new board members,
So we individually grade him and then we collate, we basically take an average of the grades.
essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And traditionally,
Discuss it.
I've published deviation, other statistics that, in fact, trending over the years, how the different items look over the year.
I have my very first one.
Yeah.
I keep them, but if you want to get an idea, just look at last year's meeting
Mm-hmm.
and kind of see how it goes. And you may read some of these questions and ask yourself, well, how does the manager have control over this question? And you just answer it the best you can, because that's how Mark can gauge maybe the next step he's going to take. Maybe it's not a direct reflection on him, but he can say, geez, I got an average of 2.5 on this. I need to look at this a little better. Not necessarily, I got to look at me a little bit better.
It would be rating manager on how he prioritizes these things, right? How they prioritize these things? That residents engage in a vibrant community life, does the manager take it seriously? That's how you rate it?
It's how I would.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
okay.
And I think the tendency from past discussions is, as board members, we often look at ourselves as also liable or responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to make sure manager is given support and resources to execute. But I think you're right.
A very good tool to use would be the annual ends accomplishment report for the end side of things. And that went out to the board, I want to say, in March or
Okay.
April. And that's our attempt to say, this is the things that the administration has done under the leadership of the manager that helped effectuate these various ends.
Okay.
And it's sort of organized that way too.
Okay.
And it's, it's an 8-page report or something, but it's a good data source, because none of you, whether you knew or not, none of us can, remember what we did in relation to the accomplishment of one of these
Right.
8 ends,
Right.
from 6 months ago. or
Right.
something.
Okay.
The only other thing that I'll add, so I don't have an objection to this. Some people struggle between a 3 and a 4 on something. They might put a 3.5. I do that on occasion.
Okay, so that's allowable.
Well, I'm asking if there's objections to it, then we'd have that discussion. But otherwise, I'm open to that.
I only did it because the supervisor started it, all honesty.
3.375?
Yeah, I didn't get that fine.
I think that's valid.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Yep.
All right, so we'll plan the second meeting in August. Everybody at this point plans on being here?
And just so everybody knows that he puts everybody's comments on the whole one.
Okay.
So he'll take everybody's sheets and combine them, and then all the comments added.
On the final report.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon too, as we go through, I might have graded something at a 2.5 and it starts with Jeff, and all of a sudden we start having a little discussion and I
Changed.
remember something that I completely missed and went, oh yeah, right, no, that it needs to be a 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we've allowed ourselves to, based on our conversations, because we don't remember everything, in the report that Mark referenced is definitely good to look at as well. So that's I don't think anything's been off the table, be it discussion or.
No? I think it's a great point, because I have adjusted as well. After hearing, it makes me think of things differently, and that, so I may score higher or lower than I might have originally.
Yep, same here. Done the same thing.
Tara made some copies, so if people, if you wanna take out paper copy, you can take it home and fill it out.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you.
great.
I would just mention, as I went through this, you know, what's our evaluation of our manager. And as we evaluate the manager, as we do regularly, it's surely a reflection on the board too. We're really evaluating ourselves as we go through this. But in the questions, what jumped out at me a little bit was, you know, we use the term in these questions as township manager, township management. And then 2.5 says township management, but if you really read the policy, it says township management team. So that just, you know, I'll consider it as the manager, but some of these questions
Right.
really are addressed in our policy manual to the team or township management, which I'm really not even clear what township management is versus township management team. Like you, you brought some, well, Warren, once I still don't quite understand this.
But that's kind of what I was talking about. If we as a group, let's just say we give that a 2. That's not necessarily the reflection on Mark, but that's something that Mark might go, okay, there's a 2. Maybe he would kind of dive into it and see where maybe we as a board need to step up, or Mark and his team need to make, that's the beauty of it all, is when we're giving these numbers, we also have the opportunity to talk about them too.
And it sounds like it's
For
not
sure.
clear who we're, not judging, but who we're scoring.
Well, ideally, this is evaluation tool on the manager, but I think we do learn about ourselves too in the process. Is that a reasonable way to put it?
For sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep. But the score is supposed to be occasionally on all of us and sometimes on the manager, and
Think the intent is, since we're giving it to the manager as his evaluation, that
right,
it
that's
should
what,
be
that's,
geared towards
well, yeah, that's what I
that.
thought, yeah. So it's not
So
our
Brian,
score.
you're saying at the second meeting in August, we come prepared with our information and we talk about the numbering system. And then someone will take all the information with the comments and then collate that together and present that in September or.
Yeah, what's been done in the
To the
past is
manager.
typically I've collected those, so if you want to keep yours, like trustee Therian, maybe make a copy of it so that you can leave it with me. And then I'll go through and prepare that and then kind of send it out for review. And then we get to prepare it or present it after that.
If I remember right, and tell me if I'm misspeaking, I believe the supervisor brought everything together and then sent it out to us via email,
Yeah.
so we could all go over it out of office. And then we came back together with anything we had, or sent it back to you with anything we had. You made the changes, and then we came back with that copy, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And so
That's
that's a
how
good,
that kind of ran.
that meeting, when we do the presentations, is good. That's the opportunity to have the dialogue directly with the manager as one versus our individual discussions leading up to the final report, right?
Right.
And we may hear some feedback from the manager on some of that too, at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we've struggled with the management team, management, that vernacular in the policy. There's been several times probably where we've when we've been reviewing a particular policy, we've stricken the management team and made it just the manager. And then we have this tool that we try to tie back to the policy. And if the policy says management team, that may likely end up in the review document, because I want to quote from the policy, but what's being reviewed is the manager and the manager's responsibilities that cover the management, which in my mind is the department directors, myself, supervisors within the organization. Anybody that has management responsibilities is management, whether you're in the bargaining group or not. And then also there's a management team, because that's recognizing the reality of the state statute that provides certain almost like day-to-day responsibilities to the clerk, treasurer, and supervisor. And the policy is trying to recognize that reality. And so it can get a little confusing. I wouldn't get too caught up in that level as long as the board has a common understanding of what you're talking about. But is the manager, with the resources provided, staff, monetary, etc., how is that manager doing as it relates to the advancement of your ends, and is the manager working within the box that's been defined in the executive limitations?
On a side note, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but the management team, meaning township manager, clerk, treasurer, supervisor, currently we're meeting Tuesdays
4 o'clock.
before our meetings, the week before our meetings at 4 o'clock. So we continue that dialogue. Gives an opportunity to discuss various things that are upcoming and prepare for this meeting for another thing. We good?
Good.
Good.
Excellent.
Let's see, that brings us to item 12 on the agenda, extended public comment, which is restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, we will open up extended public comment at 7:51 PM.
There's nobody online.
So let the record show, still nobody connected remotely, as well as nobody else here in person. So we will close extended public comment at 7:51 PM. That brings us to manager's comments. Mr. Stuhldreher.
Thank you, and I do have a couple of announcements I just want to make sure the board's aware of, and the public that may be watching. We've been running a care store drive throughout the month of July. That ends next week. Appreciate all the contributions that we've received to date, and at some point early August we'll be taking that material down to the care store and delivering it. It's always a fun time. The Saginaw Chip Tribal Powwow is this weekend. I just want to announce that because we have a close relationship with the tribe. I've been to a couple of them. They're a lot of fun. They do a lot of dancing, and their regalia is just off the charts cool. And it's just a good way to get exposure to some, other culture. So I wanted to mention that. And then the last thing is more of an ask. And next week on July 30th, there's a little celebration that's going to go on at Jameson Park for the retirement of John Bebo. And we did this once before with another individual that retired, I forget his name, Chris Radar. And the board allowed us to close Township Hall for about an hour and 15 minutes so that we can all participate in that. It's at the pavilion at Jameson Park. So I'm asking the board if you're okay, and we'll put notices on the board, on the door and all that, if you're okay with us closing Township Hall for about an hour and 15 minutes so everybody can get down to this event that I think starts at noon. And we'll be back here shortly after 1, back open for business.
Any comments
I'd
or
like to support that. I think it's great.
second?
I'd like to support a couple hours, actually.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need,
Okay, well, I mean, that's,
Appreciate it.
that's like, you don't have much time to get down there, get back if people are
that's why I
taking
said an hour
stuff, I
and
mean.
15, and we would
hours-
just like to be able to get these folks
Yeah,
particularly from this
absolutely.
building, and we don't need to spend all day. We balance our
For sure.
responsibilities, but
Or,
Yeah, of course.
with all due respect, I've never met the man, I could cover the office for a couple hours.
and we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
Yep,
But maybe the first thing is, in case that doesn't work out,
okay.
if the board is okay with us closing for an hour and 15 minutes.
Sounds
Absolutely, for sure, I
Do we
am.
need a motion, or is that just,
No.
I don't need a motion, I just need to know. I've got it, so we'll
Yep.
post something probably tomorrow, just let the public know, put it on our website. Let the public know we'll be closed for an hour and 15 minutes between noon and 1:15 for a, we'll call it something, team building event or something. You know, we're not gonna say what we're doing exactly, but,
It is that. It is, for sure.
yeah, what it is.
Yeah.
It is,
It is.
Job fair.
yeah,
And no
Try to hire
township-
back.
No township's money is being spent on this.
right.
We have this replacement.
We did ask, John Bebo's been here a long time, and he's done a lot of great work for the township and all the citizens in the township. And he's also been a mentor for a couple key people over there that are now able to move up in that department. So what we also did is ask Gordy Frazier, and they agreed, and to have a little presentation as well, so that it's a nice event for John, but it's not costing the township, because we're not allowed to spend money on that kind of thing. Not an allowable public expense. So anyways, appreciate it, thank you, and we'll make sure the public is aware.
That's
Mark?
awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Sorry, Manager Stool Dryer, what items are they wanting for the care store drive? Anything,
There's a sheet there. that
on
has,
the
like-
table?
Yeah, that
But-
explains their
Is it
basic.
on our website also? Okay, perfect, okay, thank you, just want to make sure the public had access to that.
In the main,
It's
it's
helpful.
items that are not qualified under one of the state programs.
Yes,
Usually
they
it's
don't get
SNAP.
support in buying, like
Basically
razors.
like shampoo, conditioner,
Okay.
um,
Personal items,
Personal.
household
Okay.
items that you can't spend, I forget what the program name is.
And if you can't spend SNAP or
SNAP, that
Right.
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
right,
thing.
right, okay,
EBT.
but that's on our website, okay, perfect, thank you.
Cleaning supplies.
Okay, thank you.
There's a sheet right on the table that's got
But
it.
if the people aren't here, then,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
so the public knows.
Yeah.
We've gotten several, this isn't just employees, we've had several residents, citizens, wherever they came from, come in, make contributions. There's things below the table, on the table. We've had several cash contributions that are in the safe that'll go down to the
Good.
care store. And then they just put that in their
Right,
It's
funds
on
and do
the, it's
their-
on the front page of on the
website?
website,
Okay, good.
under announcements.
Under the new website.
Yes.
Yes.
The new
That is
redesigned
great.
website.
It really is.
It's our third year doing it,
yes.
and it's led by Amy and Tara.
It's gorgeous.
They connect with Julia, Executive Director of the Care Store. can't think of her name, last name.
Starts with the E.
She's been working at that care store for 7, 10 years. First as a volunteer, now as the executive director.
Fantastic.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Final board member comment, trustee Therian,
I'm all set, thank you, sir.
clerk Cody, trustee Brown.
Just a couple things. Director Nanny gave some good news, I believe, tonight. First time in a long time I heard sidewalks going in on Bluegrass Road. I love hearing that. Hopefully the next 3 years I hear a lot more Bluegrass Road sidewalks. Also, Isabella Pickard. I stopped in at the new gas station. Outstanding. Chris? Chris?
Yes, please.
And now to hear that right next door, the brewery's going in and cleaning up the rest of that corner. I think that's a big accomplishment for Union Township to get that corner cleaned up in there. That really is nice. I just wanted to add that out there for if the community hasn't been over there to check that out. Go check it out. Plus cheap gas, believe it or not. So cheap gas. That's all I have.
Trustee Lannon?
Again, I just really appreciate this monthly manager's report that gives us insight to what the significant items of long-term interest are and what's coming up on agendas in the near term. But it's such a great collection of information that really just amazes me when I read it. What's all going on here. And also, again, congratulations to Mr. Bebo for dedicating so much of his career to the township. He's, as Mark said, been a great asset to the township.
Trustee Lay?
If you haven't been to the county fair yet, you should go. I talked to a lot of the kids who are coming through with their animals, and 4-H is one of those really fantastic organizations that gives these kids a sense of pride. And it was, even the kids who were like, I only got in 8th place, we're still really proud of their accomplishments. So go over and talk to them and check out what they've done.
Awesome.
I'm good.
I think I'm good, so we will adjourn at 8:01 PM.